Week 1 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Week 1 wrap-up with Rambling with Rhino. Busy week, a lot of football. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Had a game last night and got one to go tonight. On my picks, I was 2-2, of course, and I got Virginia Tech plus 7.5 tonight. Hopefully I can end the week a winner at 3-2. Anyway, biggest winners and losers for the weekend. Winners, and this is going to sound crazy when I say it, but Alabama. And not only is Alabama the best program over the past, 6 or 8 years, but now they got a quarterback. And that's a big win for them, but a terrible news for the rest of college football because, for the last 8 years or so, it's been a quarterback by committee or a guy who just, does enough to keep the offense rolling and the defense and special teams wins games. And, from A.J. McCarron to all the way up to where Jalen Hurts, he really didn't depend a lot on the quarterback. And now with Tua, the Tua kid, he's a big, strong, fast kid, good arm. He's another dimension to a team that really didn't need any help, but now solidifies that offense. So Alabama's going to be something to reckon with now that they got a quarterback for the next couple of years, and they've already got a commitment from his younger brother. So Alabama may be something to deal with on the offensive side again. Another winner, Notre Dame. I think a lot of people thought Michigan was going to beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost 2 of their best offensive linemen in the draft. Brian Kelly's been an average at best coach. I think he's won like 56, 57% of the games, which has got everybody else fired. From Eric Parsegian to Charlie Weiss, Ty Willingham. He was right there in that discussion, Bob Davie. And now, to beat Michigan first game of the year and don't have a really, really tough schedule. Notre Dame sets up pretty well to make it possibly in that playoff. The Wimbush kid at quarterback surprised me with his arm. I knew he was a good athlete, but he threw the ball around well. Defense played really good, held Michigan and their offense in check. Shea Patterson looked like garbage. Not like the kid from Ole Miss who had 7 300-yard games and 10 starts. So Notre Dame wins. Maryland is another one. With all the stuff going on with Maryland, the kid dying and the coach on suspension, and it looked like there's a potential for a letdown, and they came out and beat Texas. So big win for those guys. Big wins for a lot of schools, in-state schools. Clemson did what they did to Furman, and South Carolina, looked good against Coastal. But both teams get a test this week coming up with Clemson traveling to College Station and playing Texas A&M, and South Carolina having Georgia come into Williams-Brice. We'll touch on that later on in the week. The biggest losers of the week, I'll start off with last night's game in Miami. Mark Richt, of course, left Georgia and took over Miami, and everybody thought the U was back. Miami went to the conference championship game, invented the turnover chain, won a lot of games last year on defense, and everybody thought the 90s Miami Hurricanes were back, but they're not. Malik Rozier is average at best quarterback, probably one of the worst Mark Richt's ever had, and that was true going in, but they put the lipstick on the pig last year and was able to run the ball and get turnovers and won a lot of games. They're not good. They still may win that side of the ACC just because they're weak, but Miami's, pretty embarrassing how they started, and not good. Michigan, what can you say? Jim Harbaugh's stigma of 8-8 in big games or whatever it is now, and loses another one on prime time. Gets a quarterback from Ole Miss, like I stated, Shea Patterson, and they ran an offense of counters and draws and never opened up the offense for a guy who, like I said, has thrown for 300 yards 7 of his 10 starts. So that's ridiculous. Michigan's probably in trouble. Ohio State's the class of the Big Ten, of course, and Michigan won't give them any competition. Texas, Tom Herman's second year. You would have thought after losing to Maryland in the opening game last season, this game would have meant something. Thought it would have been big. And Tom Herman, to me, is nothing more than the white Charlie Strong. He's very good on a good staff as a coordinator. He can coach a mid-major like he did at Houston, but I'm not sure he can go to the next level. I just don't think maybe he doesn't have it to build a program like Texas. Who knows? I mean, it's only his, 13th game, but still, you got to win that game. That's a big deal. Other losers, Penn State goes into overtime with Appalachian State. That's not the way you want to start your season out at home. Don't get me wrong, Appalachian State's a great competitor of the lower ranking conferences, but your opening game, you got to come out and punch them in the mouth. UCLA, Chip Kelly, it's a long way from Oregon. They lose to Cincinnati at home. I don't know what's going to happen there. Probably total disarray, and a guy with an ego and as competitive as he is, he's probably about to lose his mind. Michigan State played Utah State the other night and had to come back and win that game. That's not good. Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, all these teams were in the top 15 and highly rated. And it goes to show, and Miami was another one, it goes to show that, preseason rankings are a waste of time. They really shouldn't put out a poll till, October after 4 or 5 games. And I get the polls, create the hubbub and sell magazines, but, that's not, obviously these aren't accurate. Another winner loser is Auburn and Washington. Auburn getting that win against the 6th ranked team in the country, who supposedly has the second best coach in America behind Nick Saban and Chris Peterson. They outcoached themselves. I mean, the drive at the end of the first half, they burnt the corners, and then the drive to start the third quarter, they went down and scored and took the lead, and throwing the football. Then they went back to just running the ball, and the strength of Auburn is their front seven, and you don't want to give play into their strength. Auburn had a corner that only had one arm. He was bandaged from fingertip to elbow, so he's defending one arm, and Booker can make those throws. But, Browning can make those throws, but they didn't throw the football, and they played into the strengths and gave Auburn a chance, and Auburn ran the ball down the field and eventually ran it down their throat, scored the go-ahead touchdown. And I really think Washington set up good to win that game had they stuck with the game plan they had when they were behind. But when they got ahead, they wanted to run the ball, and they basically just handed the ball back to Gus Malzahn and Jared Stidham, and it bit them. Good win for Auburn, though. Another winner. That's win against a team 6th in the country. That's going to look good for the RPI, and they still got a tough conference schedule with Alabama and LSU and Ole Miss and those Georgia. So those are the winners and losers. And I know a lot of people think Bama's not a winner, but for them to have confidence, to have enough confidence in Jalen Hurts for the last couple of years, and then have a guy better than him, I think that puts Alabama way ahead of the curve in the first game. And we'll see. This week right here, a lot of these teams that play patsies will have to buck up and play some competition. So we'll find out a lot more about the top 25 this weekend. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to y'all later on.